none of you that was never seen. Lord, we're just going to thank you. Lord, bless us. God is sure.
Just a moment. As I can envision that there is a slave master from the 1600s, a slave trader from the 1600s, who's up in Christian heaven right now, just a dancing and smiling. Dancing and smiling because their methodology is still prevalent. Their methodology worked. They were successful in enslaving the mind of the former slaves, of the inheritors from the slave trade in America. Here we have a black grandmother beating a child because the child was playing or laughing during this prayer, as if the children would even know or understand the gravity of what they're praying about, even understand the gravity of the relationship, of the religion, of the Jesus character, the God, or any of those things. She is perpetuating exactly what those ancient slave masters, those ancient slave traders had in mind. Those ruling class Europeans who had become Americans, what they had in mind when they first went down and enslaved Africans, enslaved Americans, indigenous Americans. When they first thought, how can we maintain our power over them no matter how society changes, no matter what happened in society? If they ever gain their freedom from slavery, how can we still maintain power over them? Well, there it is. That power is still maintained over many of us because our grandmothers, our aunties, our mothers, our fathers, our grandfathers, our uncles are still beating this religion into our psyche. And that child grows up and says that I've always been Christian, I've always been devout, I always had this personal relationship with God, and I've seen what Jesus has done in my life. You were beaten as a child because you were, in their mind, being disrespectful to the prayer over some food. That's why you, as you grew, had this, because there was a fear of that ass whooping that then turned into a fear of going to hell and being in this lake of fire. And that fear, you flipped it into thinking that it's love, like a Stockholm syndrome, like a woman that's being beaten by her man and then blames herself for it. Because of that fear, you turn it into some sick version of love. That grandmother will live the rest of her life and think to herself, she has done right by that child, that she beat Jesus and the respect of Jesus into that child, just as this man probably believed he beat the Jesus in front of his masters into that man. So when you say that Christianity is not a religion of brutality, when you say that Christianity is not a religion that spread through brutality, that it didn't come through evangelizing, it didn't come through watching someone live this pious life and asking the question, I want to be like, how can I be like that person? How can I get some of that peace in my life? How can I get some of that love in my life? How can I get some of that sterner stuff in my life? No, that's not how Christianity spread. Christianity spread like that. And as that grandmother was beating it into that child, Christianity still is spread that way. Whether through the indoctrination of just being born into it, or the indoctrination of being told, be fearful that you won't end up in this lake of fire, or you getting beaten into it. Reminded of the same methodology that your ancestors were beaten into it. There has to come a time, and that time is now. That time has already begun, but it is growing more prevalent now. But the time is right. The time is now that we grow out of this, that we educate our minds and go beyond this. that we understand how hermetics and humanism work together in order for us to enlighten ourselves so that we can manifest our own destiny, manifest our own right now heaven, so that we have the power and capability to manifest whatever we desire after you leave this existence. Because if you are still thinking this way, still living this way, when you leave this, you will go into oblivion. You will simply cease to exist, and you will find yourself adrift, not even, without even knowledge of self, and recombining with some other energies. But instead, if we let go of this nonsense, let go of this man-made creation, and really come to understand how this universe works, and how the laws of this universe works, and how hermetics work, and then just the basic humanism of it all, then we can progress to a higher conscious state of being. Then we can deliver ourselves, deliver ourselves from this world. We can stop looking at the meat of things. You see, I wasn't going to go here today. I don't usually go here at all. But when you read your Bible, and they tell you chew the meat and spit out the bone, they are doing you a disservice. When you look at any animal on the planet, and I know what they're trying to get at with the analogy, but the analogy is wrong. When you look at any animal, any plant, any building, it is the bones of the animal, the plant, which is the stem, the building, which is its foundation, that allows for a house to be built, that allows for a plant to flower, that allows for an animal to move. Without bones, it's just a blob. And as they attach this meat to it that's so succulent to you, that rots in your body, as they show you the flowers and you cut the flower off and the flower dies, as they decorate the house and it becomes outdated, it fall into ruin, it is the bones that you need to understand. Let me give you an example. The bones of the Bible would be something of the sense of, not husband love your wife as Jesus loved the church, or he was willing to give his life for the church, but it would be husbands love your wife as you have loved yourself, for I know not a man who have hated his own flesh. That falls right in line with the idea of treating others exactly how you desire to be treated. It should be said not to the wife to submit to your husband, for I suffer you not to speak in the church, nor have authority over a man, but that you should submit to one another, that you should be enjoying with one another. You see, there are some bones in there, but then you are focused on the meat, thinking that you have something good, but you don't. You're missing the bones. It needs to be renovated. It needs to be taken apart and looked at the bones of it. And that if you have a husband and a wife who are merely just submitting to one another, who are not doing anything to the other that they would not want done to themselves, and then they perpetuate that type of mindset within their household and with their children, and then every other neighborhood does the same, and then they do it within the community, and the community does it within the state, and the state within the nation, and the nation within the world, then we would have almost no crime, almost no suffering, almost no starvation. We will have all those things. But instead, you're trying to stay out of hell, trying to stay out of the lake of fire. You got to be right. Your God is the only God, right God. You're an atheist to everybody else's God, and they're an atheist to yours. You're focused on the wrong thing. And we've certainly been trained, beaten into us to focus on the wrong thing. So as I always say, you have to always remember you got to free yourself to be yourself, because your greatness is non-negotiable. Good journey, good vibrations.